Good day, Marcia Beaton here with Revel Realty, and I'm joined by John Finan of Finan Home Services, here to give you a bit of information about HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. John, what would you say is a couple of the considerations regarding plumbing when you're looking for a house?
Sure, on plumbing, now that houses are actually selling the way they should, which is you take a look at it, you get an inspector, and then you can make an offer that makes sense, and there's not 400 people behind you. The big things that we find are, first of all, the age of the water heater. So insurance agents are typically saying 10 years or older is a problem, so taking a look at that, replacing that, and galvanized plumbing pipe has always been an issue. So if the house was built before 1960, good chance it's got galvanized or had some. Get an inspection and get that dealt with right away.
Love it. Thank goodness for conditions. Tell me a bit about HVAC in terms of home purchase and how it's related.
Great question. So in terms of the amount of money you spend on your HVAC system versus your plumbing or electric, it's significant. We feel that the average homeowner over the course of their ownership will spend on average $1,000 a year maintaining and purchasing equipment. So you want to take a very good look at what's there. Anything that's over 15 years old is likely going to be replaced shortly. And this is a very good time. Right now, the government of Ontario and Canada has decided that they want to move us off of fossil fuels. That's a good thing. The equipment is expensive. That's not so good. But the government's got this carrot, this massive rebate of $6,500. And typically, any of us that have been around for a while, they'll use the carrot for a little while and then it'll be the stick. So the first people that change will get that $6,500. And rest assured, 5-6 years from now, that's all you're going to be able to get. So as much as the equipment is a little bit more expensive now, you're going to get a rebate back. But more importantly, over time, you're going to save a lot of money on the energy costs, because anybody that's had a gas bill in 2023 is paying a lot more than they were, and it's not going to stop. It's going to get worse.
No. Yeah. What about people who are trying to be economical about purchasing new equipment and they look to rent?
Right, yeah. So the rental market in Ontario is probably the only place in North America where you can rent equipment. If you moved to parts of the States, they wouldn't have ever heard of this. Most parts of Canada don't rent either. It's specific to Ontario. The rental agreements, typically you will be paying 3 times more for the equipment over the life of it than you would if you just purchased it. And the other thing that is always a little bit a surprise to people is when you rent from a company, that company provides service. So if you decide 2 years into the rental contract you don't like dealing with that company, you have no choice. You got 12, 13 more years to go. So
know your total cost before you sign on the dotted line. Tell me a little bit about when you're buying a house and you have electrical considerations.
Right, yeah. So of course electricity is in every house, right, as it should be, and it's the only thing that is on 24/7. Your furnace turns on when you need heat or you need cooling, plumbing when you use it, but when electricity starts, it just never stops. It's being used constantly, and most of it is not seen, so you need to have a professional take a look at it. And the big things that we see in London are going to be aluminum wiring, probably 15,000 houses in London with aluminum wiring, so you need to deal with a professional that can give you proper advice on how to deal with that. Knob and tube wiring to a lesser extent, but any house built before 1945 will have had knob and tube wiring, and in our experience, only it's been replaced in the last 15 years. So I would say there's probably 5,000 to 6,000 houses in London that still have some or all knob and tube wiring. Insurance companies for many years have not wanted to insure it. In many cases, we find homeowners that just have been there so long, the insurance company never asked that question.
Right.
But as a new buyer, that's one of the first questions they're going to ask you. So
and it comes up a lot.
Yeah, and it's not an insignificant investment to replace it either. Intrusive as well. And the other thing, which I wasn't a fan of going to a 200 amp service 3-4 years ago, but electric cars, right?
It's coming.
So, and guess what? You're not just going to get one over time. Whatever's in your driveway now, car-wise, they're going to be electric in 10 years, right?
It's
so,
coming.
200 amp services, I think they're the standard for new houses and have been that way for at least 5 years. And if you're replacing your service in your panel, I would recommend going to 200 amp service.
And when you decide to update, John Finan Home Services.